Later on in the video, I'll be talking about the Bitcoin signals and again, turning back to bearish, keeping the lower boundary of the triangle. And again, we'll see how we close. Signals are flipping back to bearish. Talk more about this later on. Now, when I first started making this video, about an hour ago, Bitcoin had a doji. Finishing the video and getting ready to post the video, and all of a sudden Bitcoin took out the lower boundary. And I was talking about in the video, again, the trend line here, we violated it here. We're now violating it here during the latter part of the Saturday session. There's VWAP support down here, but we've broken the VWAP support up here, the trend line. Now, again, we could still see bottoming tail, breaking the 50. We saw that previously. If we hold below it, again, you start coming down and taking out the low right here, which is where we're at right now. And we're down between 6 and 7%. We're hovering below 6 and 7% lower. You break VWAP support down here, you're going down to hit the 100 period moving average. Right now we're at the moment breaking it. So again, do we get a bottoming tail and recover and rebound? The stock market, the NASDAQ and S&P are right at the 50 period, so is Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's now losing that level of support, breaking this trend line right here, which we tried to break it previously, couldn't do it with the Friday session, and now we're doing it. With the Friday session, we had turned down, when the stock market had turned down, we're down about 3%. Right now we're hovering 6 and 7% lower. We were pretty much flat just an hour ago, having a doji. So we'll be watching to see how we close here on Saturday, and if we get it closed below that 50 period moving average. But right now, the resistance is up here with VWAP resistance up at these highs right here. And now we're taking out this low. So this is the next level of support right in here. And again, you lose that, you're going down towards that 100 period moving average in the daily time frame. As Bitcoin's falling in the daily time frame, it is down currently 10% at the moment as we're continuing to drop. We're down about 7% for the session, and we were already down over 3% for the week. So again, we're right now down 10.25%. Making this video right now, it's expected that Iran is going to give a response to Israel, and again, we'll be watching to see what Bitcoin looks like by the close, and it's dropping as I'm making the video, currently down 10.68%. You lose this level right here, the 60,000 area. The cloud, the rainbow cloud, has acted as support all the way up. Okay, and the rainbow cloud has acted as support. You lose the 60,000 area, you close below it here in the weekly time frame. That's going to be bearish. Then you have down here at the 57,000, 56,500 area or so, you've got critical mass. You lose 56,500 or so to the 57,000 area. You lose the rainbow cloud. You lose critical mass. That's bearish. Again, we came down to the rainbow cloud and we bounced previously. Okay, we bounced up the rainbow cloud here. When you broke it over here, then you got your dump. Again, this is a crucial level of support in the weekly time frame. The rainbow cloud at 60,000 currently at the moment. Bitcoin attempted to get earlier in the week, attempted to get back above 69,000. It did, and then it reversed and we turned back down. Currently at the moment, we are down 11% as I'm making the video right now. Currently down to 61,745. Down 11% for the week, going back and testing this low. Again, we're going to be watching. Do we get a lower high, lower low, or do we attempt a recovery? Now, at the moment, for the Saturday session, the triangle is breaking down to the downside. We'll see if we can recover or not. Bottoming tail and recover, or do we close the week out in weakness? Again, I've talked about geopolitical issues. Sometimes they rattle the stock market. Other times they don't. Sometimes it rattles the market briefly, and then it's over. That's it. So we'll be watching as tensions continue to rise in the Middle East. The sell-off, we had a sell-off there on Friday. That was what that was about. Stock market and with crypto concerns about tensions in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. Covering right now in the weekly time frame a little bit. We're down 10.29% as we're making this. We're seeing a lot of volatility. Months ago, I just checked, and Iran still had not made a response, except for a ship being seized. That could be changing as I'm making the video. I talked about the triangle, and here it is. Again, when I first started the video, we were at this trend line getting a doji. And I had to stop and redo the video. I was done with the video. Talked about it possibly breaking down or up. Well, as I was making the video, we're getting a breakdown. Right now, we're down 7.43% at the moment. Again, down nearly 11%, around 11% for the week. Volatility, and again, we're going to be watching this area. Do we take it out? If you do, you're going back to your 100 period moving average, and the measurement would go beyond that with the breakdown here of the triangle. I talked about a breakout right here, and that breakout failed. But that possibility in our last update and last couple of updates I talked about, again, if we're going to get a real breakout, you got to come up here and be able to challenge this high and move above it. And the resistance zone, we stalled right at it, the peak here and the peak here. So right now we're breaking down nearly 8% at the moment as I'm making the video. Bitcoin is in having a lot of volatility, having a significant drop. Concerns about tensions in the Middle East. And again, I'll be watching the 100 period moving average. I'll be watching to see how we close. Do we close down strong here with this drop, or do we attempt to repair the damage before the session ends? So we'll be watching that, but Bitcoin is breaking down from the triangle. I've drawn the upper boundary of the triangle from this level. Should we, with the doji, should we have gotten a rebound? Again, if we get a rebound, then that's still a possibility, but you'd have to be able to close above that 50. If we lose the 50, the green line right here, which we are right now, here we try to bounce off of it on Friday. Here we're getting a pretty good break of it here, down currently 7.25% at the moment, which again is fluctuating. If this breaks down, the triangle breaks down, again, we want to be watching the 100 period. You lose the 100 period moving average, and you stay below it, that's extremely bearish for Bitcoin. You hold above the 100 period or bounce off of it, then it buys more time. And again, we're watching to see, do we get a legitimate breakout here or rejection at the 69,000 area? Having gotten a breakout above 69,000, it failed. You pushed above it again, and it failed. And you pushed above it again, and it failed. So we keep having the failure at the 69,000 area. I talked about a lower high, lower low, and that's if we take out this level, you will have a lower high, well, actually right there, and a lower low, and could see a reversal like that. Or talked about the breakout to the upside. NASDAQ has the same triangle. Again, triangles can be reversal patterns, which if we're breaking down here now, we close that way, then you have a breakdown of the triangle, you have a reversal. It could be continuation patterns, which again, if we got a continuation up, you could still try to challenge this level. But right now, at the moment anyways, we're getting volatility with this triangle breaking down. We'll see how it closes, and if we close and we lose the 50 period, that's bearish. Close back above it, then that would be a sign of strength as long as we hold above the 50. Right now we are losing it, again, down about 7.25%. If I just move this measurement right here, you can see again we drop down to support and we're trying to bounce there. If we lose this support, horizontal support, then you have your 100 period down here coming in at the 56,000 area. And that's near critical mass in the weekly time frame. If you lose this 60,000 area, you're taking out Rainbow Cloud in the weekly time frame. Right now, again, we're trying to recover. Now we're down 6.87%, but a lot of volatility for the session. I'll be watching to see what the bar looks like by the close. Do we get a break of the 50? Do we get a break of the lower boundary here and a downward resolution with marking that as a failed breakout? We attempt a bigger recovery here. We'll be watching to see what the weekly close looks like. Again, it's been down as much as over 11%, and currently, again, we've dropped over 7%. I've been closer to 8 at the lows here in the daily. Now, we're also losing the cloud here at the 50 period. And again, it's gone from green to red to green to red, now back to green, now to red. And again, that's producing the sell signal that you're seeing right here. And if we close that way, then you have the bullish signal going away, momentum turning back to bearish, and a downward resolution of the triangle, losing the 50 period moving average. Way is Bitcoin getting rejection at the upper boundary of overhead resistance, but we have this rising upper boundary here. We continue to get rejection. If we attempted a rally with the triangle here, we could have still pushed above this level like that and break out. But again, watching to see, do we get rejection at this 69,000 area in the weekly time frame? And right now we're having volatility surrounding tensions in the Middle East. See what that looks like going into next week. Now, I've talked about this area at great length and detail. This 69,000 range, we got above it. We hit 73,000, just under 800, and we turned down. We rebounded back up. We got a lower high so far. Now we're turning down. What does a candlestick look like by the end of the week? Do we get a bottoming tail like this, or do we get it closed down strong? Currently, again, moment I'm making the video, we're getting the volatility as with tensions in the Middle East. Currently, we've seen a low as much as beyond 11%. Currently, at the moment, we're down 9.5% or so. And again, we're struggling at this area. Again, over here, we tried to clear it. It failed. Made several attempts to try to get above that level. It failed. Here, we're making several attempts to try to clear this level. It's failed. Breakout, a close above 69,000, but it was on extremely light volume surrounding Easter and spring break. So again, going to be watching this area. Going to be watching to see how we close by Sunday. Close strong. Do we close weak? And do we get confirmation by the end of the Saturday session here? Breakdown of the triangle. Breakout, it failed. Does a breakdown fail, or do we get a legitimate breakdown and a bigger sell-off? So we'll be watching. But right here, again, I told you we could dance around this area for a little while, but this is now the resistance right here, and we're struggling. 3 attempts to try to clear 69,000, and each one has failed. If it 1, 2, 3 strikes you out, then we need to drop below the 100 period in the daily time frame, lose the 20-week moving average in the weekly time frame. This is the real deal. Bitcoin has to clear this resistance level and keep going. As I've talked about, Bitcoin has had real breakouts. It plowed through overhead resistance and just kept going. I've talked about this. And again, we had the breakout here. We hit it. We came down, and then we tried to break out again, and it failed. And we ended up dropping 55% here. We dropped 78% here. And now we're trying another breakout. And so far, it's failing. We've made 3 attempts to get above 69,000, and each time it has failed. If this is a bull market, if this is a legitimate market that's going to go higher, we've got to break out through this level and keep going. And again, the risk is that we reverse surrounding the halving here, recession concerns, and that we end up with a bigger corrective move, an expanded flat where you go above this high, but then you come back down and you take out this low. That is a large correction called an expanded flat Elliott wave. It is a possibility if we get rejection here and get a fake out rather than a breakout. So then you have the potential for a triple top, as I've been talking about. So getting some volatility with the candlestick here on concerns about tensions in the Middle East, expanding into a larger war. That's likely not going to happen at this time, but we don't want to rule that out, but see how it goes. Watching what happens to the weekly chart, what happens with the weekly close by the end of the week. Now, here's volatility. As I'm making the video, we have had Iran launch drone attacks against Israel. So we'll see how this heats up, and just creating the volatility on Bitcoin last few minutes that I've been showing you. So apparently hundreds of drones have been launched to attack Israel. The IDF is saying they will respond, so we'll see if things escalate, how Bitcoin reacts, how the stock market reacts. Do things calm down by the time the stock market opens and the new trading week begins for Bitcoin, or do they escalate out of control? Bitcoin is currently down here in the weekly time frame, 10.5%. It's been down as much as 11 to close to 12%. At a 9-count sell signal, I talked about the hanging man candlestick last week. As we close, or actually earlier this week on Monday when we closed. On Sunday, I talked about it on Monday. We completed a hanging man candlestick, and that candlestick could be confirmed by the end of the week with a close below that level. That will be a reversal bar. But I also talked about how we had a 9-count that had not yet been perfected. The 6 bar was still the high of the count. In order for the 9 count to be a perfected signal, it could still play out not being a perfected signal. It's showing price exhaustion is what it's showing, but it could still play out if we get a confirmed reversal here, confirmation, and then a follow through. Then that can mark a turning point. If we recover before the weekends, before Sunday's close, then there's still the possibility we try to get a perfected signal closing back above this level. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds. Right now we're having volatility. We had volatility before here and here, and we recovered both times. We had volatility here last week, the previous week, and we recovered. Did we recover before the weekends here? We'll see what happens. Or do we confirm the candlestick as a hanging man and a lower high, and then you get a lower high and a lower low? Right now we're back here at support. Earlier in the week we were at levels testing the overhead resistance level, the resistance zone that has now failed. So we'll be watching to see how we close out the week here in the weekly time frame. But we did have a 9-count sell signal last week, and I brought that up on several occasions, and I talked about it on Monday. Now, as I'm making this video, apparently Iran has launched a drone attack with hundreds of drones on Israel. Again, it could escalate further. That's as much information as we have. A moment as I'm making the video, Iran attacked Israel, and the crypto markets have had a very negative reaction to that, at least so far. We'll see how we close out the week, but again, we've been down as much as 11 and 12%. This is the weekly chart. I continue to point out we're stalling at this 69,000 area of resistance. We broke out above it on very light volume surrounding the spring break holiday, very light volume, and right now we're having volatility. But see the little red arrows? That's telling me distribution. They're sellers up at this level. That's what it's telling me. In order for Bitcoin to go higher, we got to see some of this. And you got to get a legitimate breakout above 69,000. This is showing that there are sellers lurking here like there were back at this top, like there were back up at this top, just as there were buyers down here. Telling me that there's distribution taking place with Bitcoin at key resistance. Again, for a bullish scenario, you got to get above 69,000, hold above it, not look back. A bearish scenario, you get rejection here. This is our third attempt to get above 69,000. You've had now 3 attempts fail. Is it 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out? Bitcoin starts losing the 60,000 area directly below rainbow cloud, then can go lower. And if it drops below the 100 in the daily time frame, Bitcoin will reverse. Again, here's the 100 period. Currently, we're down 7.5%, breaking down from the triangle. Again, Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average. We've taken out the 20. That's the blue line right there. Short-term momentum, and if we hold below the 20, then that's going to be bearish like what we did back over here. But here, again, if you take out the 100 period like we did here, then bad things start happening to Bitcoin. You get above it, good things happen. So again, the 100 period moving average. Spring parameter rolling over, and again, possibly going to get a lower high, lower low here before the weekends. We'll be watching. Again, we're testing this level right now. But right now, horizontal support is holding at the moment. You take out the cloud. This is the trending cloud. We bounced out the trending cloud, the 100 period over here. You take this level out, the 100 in the trending cloud, then Bitcoin is in trouble, and the sellers will take control. You're above the 100 period, are in control. When you're below the 100 period, the bears are in control. So our triangle's breaking down at the moment. We'll see how we close by the Saturday session. We got a couple more hours here, and then we'll be watching to see how we close the weekly bar in on Sunday in the weekly time frame. Just quickly, I want to show you my Bitcoin volatility oscillator, and it is suggesting we have a potential top here with Bitcoin. We're seeing volatility rise in the last few days here, and then it's pushing up the purple line there. When we did that before over here, Bitcoin topped out at the 69,000 area, and it held above the purple line. Pullbacks towards it marked the counter trends here in March, and then in August and November, and eventually we bottomed out in November, and volatility dropped for Bitcoin, with the volatility oscillator dropping back below that level, and that's where we had the rally up. We went sideways, tried to get back above it. We had the September bottom there. That's when we hit that 25,000 area, and then we dropped, and we've been below it ever since. Signals turned back to bullish after that bottom and breakout. When we moved to new lows with volatility, volatility dropped to new lows Now it's trying to turn back up here. Now it will either means we've formed a top, or it could do something like this, where it goes back down if we're in a topping process. But this is very problematic for a bullish case. We can get above the purple line here, the signal line, or volatility oscillator. It means that volatility, when you're above the purple line, that Bitcoin's having a lot of volatility. Below it, it means volatility is declining, and then we get back above it, but then drop back below it there with the September bottom for Bitcoin. We peaked here with volatility in September. Volatility dropped. So again, getting above this signal line now with what's going on is a bearish event for Bitcoin. It drops back below the signal line. It buys more time. Again, if we're going to get a legitimate bull market, you got to hold below this level. Back above it, you're going to get a reversal at the 69,000 area. And right now, you're getting back above it. So again, this is marking recent volatility lows here at that 73,800 area as our March peak for Bitcoin so far. Peak on Bitcoin and the lows for volatility. Volatility spiking back up here with Bitcoin, and if it holds above the signal line here, then Bitcoin could reverse at the 69,000 area. The Bitcoin volatility oscillator has done a very good job showing when volatility increases, when volatility declines, and now it's turning back up at the moment. Volatility continues to increase, Bitcoin could reverse and top out. Now, with Iran beginning to hit Israel with hundreds of drones launching an attack on Israel, we have the signal going back to bearish Bitcoin. If we take out, and right now we're trying to, currently at the moment we're down now 8%. It's fluctuating between about 6 to 8% now. Daily time frame, and again, 11-12% there in the weekly time frame, but we're breaking down below the triangle. We're taking out the green line, which is the trend. The momentum is the blue and red line right there, turning back to bearish, and we're trying to take out the trend, which again, with that, we're seeing momentum roll over here, but it's not going negative. If we go negative, we'll validate that. So we'll be watching to see how do we close out the day, how do we close out the week. A lot of volatility down, but rebounding back up, but we're going to be watching again. We're coming to this level of support right here, and so far it's holding. Do we break that level? If we do, then you're going to drop down towards that 100 period moving average. Some levels of support and resistance, but some support levels are now being taken out with the breakdown of the triangle. We'll see how we close the end of the Bitcoin session for Saturday. We still have a few more hours in the session. See how we close by the week on Sunday. We're seeing the dollar surge. It broke out of overhead resistance this week. We cleared overhead resistance. We had previously stalled at it. And in the weekly time frame, we've had the breakout of the downward trend as Bitcoin's gone sideways. So again, dollar pulls back, gets a back test of the breakout. Again, Bitcoin could still pump higher, but the move could still fail because we're getting a breakout of the dollar. Dollar's clearing the 20-month moving average for right now. Here in the monthly time frame, last time it did that, Bitcoin peaked and we saw the top. It was up by 1.87% this week. It broke the downward trend line. It back tested it last week, and now we've surged by 1.87%. We could back test the horizontal breakout right here, but you've broken out of the downtrend. You've broken out of horizontal resistance. When that happened over here, Bitcoin peaked, and so did NASDAQ. So November of 2021, the dollar soared and Bitcoin tanked. So did the NASDAQ. So again, you've got breakouts going on here.